Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm really excited that you could join us because today we have a really cool special guest, a buddy of mine that I've actually learned a lot from and is making huge waves right now in the entrepreneurial space. And we're going to be talking about building a financial roadmap for victory. So with me today on the show is Micky Deming. And Micky is the Director of Marketing at Kahuna Accounting and also the co-founder of Trepex Group and host of the Trepex podcast. Now, I'm one that listens to the Trepex podcast in the background as I go about my workday. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you should. But warning, it is highly, highly addictive. So I'm just giving you a heads up before you jump in. So Micky's helped Kahuna Accounting grow from no clients and no revenue to over 200 clients and about $500,000 in annual recurring revenue so far. And he comes from a journalism background and has used that experience to translate to marketing success with content marketing, interviews, storytelling, and really clear, simple communication. So he's got a lot of cool things that he's going to be sharing with us today, and I'm looking forward to bringing him on. So Micky, welcome, man. Welcome to the call.
Ty, thanks so much for having me. I like how you weaved in the making waves there. That was pretty clever. I caught that.
I couldn't think of any other way to describe the massive impact that you're having right now.
Yeah, when you're the big kahuna, that fits well.
Well, I went ahead and put my screen out so we could see your actual screen, so we can see your slide presentation, and I'll chime in, but I'm going to kind of let you run away with this. I love your topic so far because the financial roadmap for victory is something that our clients are going to be really, really interested to. Our listeners, our viewers. I've got a lot of feedback already, so I'm looking forward to what you have to say today.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me, Ty. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited about this topic too. I get to talk about financials and accounting pretty much every day. And this topic is exciting to me because I really want it to be something positive. I think with accounting, a lot of times we focus on the negative. We focus on all the things that can go wrong and why it's scary and how you can get in trouble with the IRS and things like that. I want this to be really positive and how it can actually be a way for you to build towards victory, towards winning, towards doing the things that you want to do. And so that's what we're going to do. So I want to give just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. It's really going to fit into 4 different sections, very specific sections. And the first is the scoreboard for business. So if you're going to want victory, how do you know what victory is without a scoreboard? Second, the 2 pillars of financial awareness. So figuring out where you are right now and where you want to be. Without those 2 pillars, anything in between doesn't really make sense. Then I'm going to walk you through something really, really basic on how to build a financial model for victory. So it's not going to be super deep accounting stuff that you wouldn't be able to implement right now. This is something you can take right away and do something with and build a model that is going to lead you to get to where you want to be by the end of next year. And then the step 4 is the perfect accounting system. So I know a lot of times where people get off in this, and the model is they never get a system that works and it's never set up right. It doesn't work. So this is something I've seen a lot of, and I think I can help talk through it. So a little bit of background on who I am. I appreciate the intro you shared. I am the Director of Marketing at Kahuna Accounting. Kahuna Accounting is a unique business. We've been doing, like you said, we have over 200 clients all over the country, and we've been doing this nationwide for almost 3 years. However, the history is much longer. Our founder, who I know Ty, personally, Frank Lunn, is not an accountant. He doesn't come from an accounting background. He is an entrepreneur, and accounting was such a pain for him that he invested heavily in his accounting team because that was just something he could never figure out, and it was always frustrating. That accounting team proved to be one of the best investments he ever made. And then as he transitioned out of that business, started selling it, he kept the accounting team and wanted to offer that team to help others. So that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years, helping people all over the country. And it's been a great experience. And for me, I get to talk to those entrepreneurs. I get to talk to them about what they're dealing with, what their pain is, what their fear is, and see the light bulb go off when they make a transition into a system that works. So we do all the bookkeeping and accounting for entrepreneurs. And this talk today is going to come from those experiences. So it's not going to come from, accounting expertise to an entrepreneur. It's going to come from an entrepreneur perspective. What is that entrepreneurs want and how to get there. So step 1, the scoreboard of business. I love this. I love playing sports. I love to just to be an athlete, and I love the concept of winning. I think it's a great picture as entrepreneurs. We want to win. I think a lot of times we focus on growth, but growth does not measure victory. There's something else. So The goal for this webinar, this first section about the scoreboard, is really for you to become an empowered business owner, to feel like you're in control of the business, and to have financial awareness, to understand what's going on in the business, to have confidence, to know where you stand today and where you are going. And really, you can't do that without a scoreboard. And so you think about, if you follow sports and you watch football, for example, the decisions that they make are so different throughout the game. Like if you're behind by 40 points, you're not going to be, punting a lot and doing a lot of run plays. You're going to be passing. You're going to be trying to work quickly. So the scoreboard dictates your decisions. If it's fourth down, you punt. You don't try to go deep. You make a lot of your decisions based on the scoreboard, and it's very obvious in football. If there was no scoreboard, if you didn't know how much time was left, you didn't know what the score was, you'd probably make a lot of decisions that weren't very good. Now, in business, we make a lot of decisions without a scoreboard. And if you don't have a good handle on your numbers, on the numbers that are driving your business, it's similar to not having a scoreboard. And for us as leaders and for us as entrepreneurs, we need to make the most informed decisions that we possibly can. And we need to see things before they come. We need to look ahead. And without a scoreboard, you can't do that. In accounting, like I said, I want to focus on the positive. Accounting is not just a way to keep you out of trouble, to get things to a CPA so that you can survive tax season. Accounting is the scoreboard for your business, and that's not just looking backward. It's looking at the present moment and looking forward. So in this first section, we're going to talk about why that's important, why the scoreboard is important, what it can do, the power it can have for your business. Another thing it does. So I like this. I put this map up. So Ty. I tried to take a picture with my phone, but it didn't work very well. So outside today, I'm here in Bloomington, Illinois. You can see that on the map, just south of Chicago. And it is currently snowing right now. And it's really cold. And I had to kind of dust some snow off my windshield this morning. Now, Ty, you are in Tampa, Florida. So if I decide right after this webinar, I'm sick of this, I'm tired to get out, I need to get out of this cold, it's snowing, and Ty doesn't even know what that is like, I'm going to drive to Tampa. So if I wanted to do that, I wouldn't just start driving south and just, making my way south and hoping that I'll get there. I would create a map like this. And so to get there, I have to identify the destination. So I want to get to Tampa. I want to find Ty where it's warm. And then once I identify that destination, I can build a path to get there. And so in business, a lot of times we just go day by day. We move forward. We try to grow. We try to build. We try to work with clients. But there's no real clear destination. Where is this going? And if we do have a clear destination, is there a roadmap to getting there? And so accounting can really do that. If you can look ahead, look 1 year ahead and say, this is where I want to be in 1 year. This is my destination. With accounting, when you have a vision of your numbers, you can actually build a roadmap. Like here's where I need to be in a quarter. Here's where I need to be halfway through the year, and track your specific numbers. And I'm going to talk to you a bit more about the specifics. But for now, I want you to understand the power of this, that accounting can not only be the scoreboard, but can also be a roadmap that you're following as you seek out goals, the things that you want to do, the things that you want to accomplish. So Ty, I don't know if I'll make it to Tampa today, but it is snowing, so I had to give you a hard time about that.
You probably don't want to, because it's warm today, but tomorrow it's cold. It's a 75. It's the
high.
high.
My gosh, that's so
I know
cold.
it is. It's very cold for us. And it's going to stay that cold all week, so it might not be the right time to come down.
Okay, well then I'll just stay here in the snow. That's fine. So you have that, and then the other thing, and this one really comes from the conversations with entrepreneurs, and I hear this all the time. And it's when you build your own business, the idea is to have freedom, to have, to build something bigger than yourself, to, you're not working for anyone, so you can make your own schedule, you do the things you want to do. And a lot of people that build businesses end up just with a job and they're their own boss. And in accounting plays a huge role in that. People don't realize it. We hear this all the time. Like, I feel like I'm this hamster on the hamster wheel. Like I just keep, no matter how hard I push, nothing changes. And this happens all the time. So you grow, you start growing, you get more clients, you grow. But with that growth comes new complexities. It comes hiring, it comes spending more. And many times the growth doesn't really change anything. You don't have more profit. You don't have more freedom. If anything, you have more on your plate. And so that it becomes kind of this trap where I think Michael Gerber in the E-Myth, calls it like the self-employment trap. Like you get trapped and you're stuck and you're on this hamster wheel. Well, that's because sales aren't the only metric to measure. And accounting can provide a way to build something bigger than you, because you start to see things like, what is the impact of hiring someone? What is my profitability? What are the expenses that I'm having every month that aren't driving anything? And you start to uncover those things and understand, what would it take for me to pull myself out of this and build something bigger than myself? I've read this book recently. I don't know if Ty's read it. I would recommend it to anyone. It's called Extreme Ownership. I put the cover here, so check that out. It's a phenomenal book for entrepreneurs, for business owners, but really for anyone, just having to do with taking ownership of the things that are going on in your life, in your situation. And a lot of times there's a temptation to try to blame others or make excuses, and that doesn't help anything. The best way to succeed is to take ownership of the situation. And when you really dial in your accounting, you can really start to take extreme ownership of what's going on in your business. So a couple ways that plays out. Number one, you can play to your strengths. So when you are the entrepreneur that's wearing every hat and you're doing your bookkeeping, you're just doing whatever you have to do to survive, you don't really play to your strengths. You do it. You get by. When you start to put systems in place that you have your finger on the pulse of the financials, you can start to be honest with yourself. You can play to your strengths because you can identify where are the weak points in the business. The other thing we're going to talk about more later is you're able to be held accountable. And that's a big part of the extreme ownership, is that you can hold yourself to a standard and then be held accountable to how you're doing on that. It doesn't mean you're always going to win. Talk about a path to victory. Some months are going to be rough months, but at least you can then say, why did that happen? And then going back to the map, you want to make informed decisions. Or the scoreboard, actually. When you have a scoreboard, it informs your decisions. And so when you take extreme ownership and you are really you're like, I'm committed to this business. I want it to succeed. I'm going to make sure it does. Your financials are really the determining factor in whether or not that's going to happen, if it's going to succeed. Because if your financials aren't working, if your cash flow is not there, if you're not making progress toward the goals that you're pursuing, then you're not winning. And if you're not winning, then you have to do something to fix it. And if you don't know whether or not you're winning, then how are you taking extreme ownership? How are you doing everything you can do that's in your power to lead yourself to that victory? And so this book is great. I would recommend checking it out. But even that simple point of just extreme ownership, like I am committed to victory in this business, and therefore I'm committed to keeping a finger on the pulse of the financials, because those are going to determine whether or not I'm winning or losing. So I like to do this in pretty much every talk that I give, because it kind of speaks to people when you think of the type of person that most people are when they handle their accounting, and it paints a good picture, because it is most people. And most people are person A. I like to use person A and person B. Person A, they basically don't do a lot of bookkeeping throughout the year. Most people will get QuickBooks because someone told them to, but they don't really ever get set up correctly. And they use QuickBooks and some spreadsheets and basically just compile all the receipts and information that they have in a combination of spreadsheets and QuickBooks and whatever they can come up with. Then they have a CPA that they rely on, that they trust, and the CPA's role is just to get taxes done. Like that's please just let me get these done. That's my goal. And at the end of the year, which is coming up, you'll soon be thinking about these taxes. The entrepreneur will then take all their spreadsheets, all the receipts, all their information, and give it to the CPA and say, please just somehow sort through this and make sense of it so I can get my taxes done. That's kind of an extreme example, but a lot of people are in that. And even at best, most people are playing catch up most of the year. They're not seeing things in real time. And so that's a typical person A. Person B, however, just imagine this person. You have financial reports right in front of you every single month. You know the impact of your decisions for now and for the future. Your tax season gets done quickly and painlessly. And one of the most powerful things of all, you can get real advice from a CPA. And so we've talked to Coon Accounting. We're not a CPA firm. We do the bookkeeping day to day and accounting and reports. And then we work with CPAs who do tax. And we talk to a lot of CPAs who are frustrated because they want to provide meaningful advice. They want to advise on, how to categorize things, how to save more, how to, make your expenses categorized the way they should. But a lot of CPAs can't really provide relevant advice because all they're doing is helping you sort through your transactions from the year. And so when you're able to get things done in real time, you can look forward and get some real proactive advice. And so just imagine the feeling of being person B who, runs their business, focuses on their strength, and then their accounting is just something that their reports are done every month. They hand it over to a CPA, they get real advice, and they get their taxes done without a big fat hourly bill. They just get it done. And so it's a big contrast, and it makes a huge difference when you can make that transition to be that person. And so that's kind of the picture of, what does it mean to have good accounting? And just to recap a little bit about what that is number one, you have your finger on the pulse of the business. You have a scoreboard. You know that you're winning or losing. You can create a roadmap by identifying a destination on where you're going and a path to get there. Your accounting can be that roadmap. The third piece was that you build something bigger than yourself. So you get out of that trap, the hamster wheel. You identify profitability. You identify cash reserves, things that you can do to build something bigger than yourself. Number four, you take extreme ownership. You know that this is your thing. You're going to make it work. You're in for the long haul, and so you're committed to it, and you're going to make it work. And the fifth piece, and that's where I go to person A and person B, is a mindset shift that happens. So when you become an entrepreneur that is empowered and you have your finger on the pulse of your financials, there's a certain mindset shift that happens where, like, when you receive those financial reports and they're right in front of you and you see a dashboard that shows how you're growing and what's going on, there's a certain feeling where you sit up a little bit higher in your chair and you feel like, I am owning this. And that mindset shift makes a big difference just on how you grow. And so understanding the importance and knowing that, accounting is not all just scary and a necessary evil, that it actually has power to drive your business forward towards victory. Now I want to get into a few more of the practical things. So what prevents people from actually taking that type of action? So step two in this is going to be the 2 pillars of financial awareness. And it's really actually very, very basic, but something that almost everyone misses. So the 2 are very simple. Number 1, where are you now? And number 2, where are you going? So again, right now I'm in Bloomington, Illinois, where it's snowing. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Tampa, where it's warm. So the where are you now? I want to pull this quote out. It's from Good to Great by Jim Collins. He talks in that book about the Stockdale paradox. It's a really interesting chapter that is worth. This is another book that's very much worth a read. But for now, this quote I think is incredibly important for what we're talking about. He says, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be." And so what he's saying there is that we are entrepreneurs. Like, we believe in what we're doing. We believe that no matter what, things are going to work out. Like, no matter what we do, things are going to work out. And that is good. We should have that. But what he's saying is, just because you have that and you should keep it, doesn't mean you ignore the brutal facts of your current reality. You need to face those, you need to own those, and you need to be brutally honest with everything that's going on in your present state. And it's a weird little contrast. That's why it's the Stockdale paradox. You can keep the entrepreneurial faith and belief, but you get really, really nitty gritty, dirty, and honest with what's going on day to day. And so this is the question: where are you now? Another way to look at this is that measurement drives the business process. Brutal honesty and confronting the truth provides means for improvement. And so we know this is true. Like, we know this intuitively. Like, the more we measure things, like in your personal expenses, if you start to look and start to measure and start to think like and track it day by day, just the fact of measuring, you start to improve the process. And it's painful. Like, being brutally honest with the truth is painful. And we've gone through it ourselves at Kahuna Accounting. Like, we had to do some soul searching a few months ago, where we just took a look at our clients and we said, how much time are we spending? Which ones are good? Which ones are bad? And there were a lot that weren't good, and that it was the fault of our sales process that brought us bad clients. But if we had just continued on and ignored that and just moved forward and said, things will work out, things will get better, then they wouldn't have. We wouldn't have been being honest with ourselves. And that is where a lot of people go wrong in accounting. And to be honest, a lot of people don't even want to face these questions. So like, you think here's some brutally honest questions that anyone should be able to dig up and answer, but most people wouldn't be able to answer off the top of their heads. And so just some examples. How is your cash flow right now? Do you feel confident with it? Do you feel good about it? Do you have a finger on the pulse of it? Do you know what's really driving it? Where do you expect cash flow to be in 6 months? So looking ahead, not where do you hope it will be, where do you expect it to be based on the factors in your business? Are you profitable? And related to that, how much does one sale cost? So breaking down, how much does it cost to sell, one product, one service, including, cost of goods sold, including the marketing cost to acquire a customer. These are brutally honest questions that allow for some transparency in what's going on day to day in your business. And for a lot of people, they're not fun to answer, because we'd rather just focus on how can I sell more, how can I sell more, how can I grow more, and think that's going to solve the problem. One way we like to say it, this is kind of fun, I'll give our founder Franklin a hard time, but we talk about this all the time. Do not hide from reality. I played basketball last night. I just had a baby 2 months ago, and so because of the new baby, I haven't played basketball or really done anything athletic in quite a while. And so yesterday I went back out there, and about halfway through, I was like, wow, I'm out of shape. It was painful how out of shape I was. But at the same time, I was like happy, because the day before, I didn't feel out of shape when I was just doing nothing, but I was. And so me getting out there and feeling like crap actually was a good thing, because I was like, okay, now I know where I stand at least. I know that I'm a little bit out of shape, and I know what I need to do to at least improve upon that situation. Well, it's the same thing with knowledge. So Frank likes to say this quote. Frank is our founder: embrace your ignorance. And so he talks about that even with his own story with accounting. Like, he was so confused for so long and didn't really know what to do. And eventually he decided to embrace his ignorance. And a lot of times we have this pride of like, I have it all figured out. I don't want to admit that I'm wrong, that I don't know what I'm doing. And accounting can be that way for a lot of people, because if we've been unorganized for a really long time, if every time we talk to our CPA, they speak a foreign language that we don't even understand, those things are overwhelming. They're not fun conversations to have. And it causes us to kind of shut down. And I know this is true because I've had this conversation with people. Like, literally, people will say, I'm sold, I want to work with you, but here's why I'm hesitating: because I'm embarrassed for you to open this up to you, for you to see how I've been doing this in the past, for you to see how ignorant I am, how much I have, been stupid and done these things wrong. And so that embarrassment prevents people from getting help and prevents people from improving the situation. And so that's why I start here in this conversation about creating a roadmap to victory. We talk a lot about the destination, where we're going, but it's first important to identify where we are right now, because a lot of people don't even face that. Like, where am I right now? And I'm just going to pretend everything's okay. I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to pretend it's all working just fine. I'm doing okay. And if that's not true, then it's not healthy. And so you have to embrace your ignorance. Like Frank always says, like, if I don't know something, realizing I don't know it is the first step to knowledge. So it's kind of confusing, but if you don't know it, then how are you going to even learn? So once you realize you're ignorant, then that's step one on figuring it out. So embrace your ignorance and don't hide from reality. I've been saying this all along, but growth is not the solution. So understanding where you are is step one, but there's another element to it. There has to be profitability. There has to be a finger on the pulse, because you can't outgrow. A lot of times growth just creates a bigger mess than what you had before. So part one is knowing where you are. Part two, where are you going? So accounting is the roadmap, but you have to have clarity about the destination. A lot of people, amazingly, and I run into this too, like, you work, but you don't really think deep about where is this going? Like, where is the end destination? Like, and the best way to think of it too is like at a macro level. Like, why did you even do this? Why did you come here? Why did you start your business? What were you dreaming of when you started it? And then kind of work back. So if the destination is 10 years from now, then where would you need to be in 5 years to be on the right track? Then where would you need to be in 3? And then break that all the way down into 1 year. Like, where do you want to be in 1 year? Like, do you have clarity on that destination, on where you're going in 1 year? And I think a lot of people don't. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one is they never really take the time to think about that. Like, so you started the business with some big dream, and then you just got into the business and you started working, you're growing, you're finding clients, you're doing whatever you're doing, but you don't really have that picture of where is this going. And I've had those conversations on the podcast actually, where people said, you know, I was going after this, going, and then 10 years later I got there and I was like, where am I? Like, where was this going? And that's a painful thing to run into, and that, you know, causes a lot of soul searching when you get there. And so when you think about accounting, it's really, really important to think, where do I want this to go? To use your numbers as a filter to think through these important questions of like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And how am I going to get there? So problem number one is you really are aimless and you don't really have a picture of the destination. Problem two is some people are very, very clear on what that destination is. So there's two sides of the coin. One, you never really think through the destination, you just move forward. Number two is you have a very clear picture of where you want to go. You can see it in your mind. I'm going to be there. And this is probably the better of the two, honestly. But the problem for those people is they don't really connect it to a path to get there. They see the vision and then they just work, and trusting that someday they will arrive. You know, it's kind of like me going to Tampa. Like, if I just started driving south, that hoping that, you know, through luck, I'll somehow just get there. And so this is where I started transitioning to more practical pieces of accounting. So when you have that vision in mind, it's never going to be this smooth path, like that you just, you know, incrementally work your way towards your destination. Like, it's not as easy as driving to Tampa. However, there is a mathematical piece to it. So if you say, here's where I want to be in 1 year, you can actually break that down into what needs to happen for me to get there in 1 year. And so most people never make that connection, never tie it to financial information. And so that's what I'm talking about when we talk about building a roadmap to victory, is identifying what victory is and then building out a map and a model that's actually going to lead you to that victory. So I already covered this, but think about this. This is a worthy exercise. Even if you take not anything accounting related and throw it out the window and don't use it, this will be worthwhile, is to just think, for you as a business owner, as a person, what is victory? What does victory look like? Where, you know, are you when you say, this is good, this is why I was an entrepreneur? And then break that down. Where are you in 5 years? Where are you in 3 years? Where are you in 1 year? Those questions are, especially now, you know, we're heading towards a new year. It's a great time to ask those questions. Think of those big picture questions. Where are you going? Where do you want to be? It's incredibly important. So we got that in mind. We think through, where am I now? I'm brutally honest with the facts, brutally honest with everything that's going on. I'm not going to be embarrassed about my ignorance. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to own it. And then I'm going to be very honest too with, where do I want to be? I'm not going to hold back. This is where I want to be in the future. And because of that, here's where I want to be in 1 year. Now we can start to connect that to our financials and say, how do I build a model that's going to lead me toward where I want to go? I told you this is going to be positive stuff. I'm not trying to scare you. So recapping, my slides messed up. I lost my words, but there's you. You know, where you want to be is on the right. Where you are now is on the left. So what's the gap? What's keeping you from getting there? What are the steps? If that's truly where you see yourself going, there's a series of things that need to happen for you to get there. So how are you going to cross this chasm? And your financials can provide a roadmap to get there. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So here's how I want you to think about your financial map. This is not going to take any accounting skills. This is going to just take maybe a spreadsheet, and it's really a thought exercise, but I think it can be really, really valuable. I've seen people go through this and it changes everything just to actually think about these things. And so you won't be able to do it probably right now, but you can do it quickly right when this is over. So take notes and think about this. But to build this financial map, here's what I want you to think about. Take your last 6 months of information. So the easiest way to do this is to, I mean, if you're not organized into an accounting system, is to, look at your bank statements, look at your credit card statements, and pull together your last 6 months. And within those last 6 months, look at how much money came in and how much money went out, your income and your expenses. So this is very not accounting lingo. This is, straightforward, money in, money out. Take a look at that and what happened over the last 6 months. And then this is where you can kind of build a little spreadsheet and break those things out into a projection over 1 year. So you take what just happened the last 6 months and take the average, and then what does that look like then going over the next 12 months? So you repeat that average over the next 12 months. Then where does that leave you? So now think about this guy. So now we can see the gap. So if you have identified where you want to be in 1 year, and whatever your target is, if that's a revenue target, if it's a profitability target, you can come up with that, identify that target, and then build this model out over 12 years. If you just flatlined on your average from the last 6 months, where are you? What's the gap? Hopefully this is making sense. So there's a gap there if you're coming up short. If you're hitting it with your projection, then maybe you need a better target, or a higher goal, or maybe you're just on the right track and you're in good shape. But either way, this is kind of enlightening to go through that. You see the gap. So then what you can do is think about, if there is that gap, what are the key indicators that are pointing you towards that goal? So if it's sales, if it's getting down expenses, maybe your sales are right on track, but your expenses are totally out of line. Or maybe you need to hire people to make a difference. Well, what's the impact of that? These are the type of questions you can start to answer when you have a financial map pointing towards where you're wanting to go. Most people don't even think about these things, and so they don't have that benefit of foresight. Most people are looking backwards and they're always reacting. I want you to look forwards and think, what are the key indicators towards the goal? When you build that spreadsheet out, you can start to see, like, okay, if I increase my sales by 10% over, month after month, what does that look like? Where does that put the target? Now where am I? And then if it's good, if it's where you want to be, then you say, okay, then what do I have to do to increase by 10%? It becomes really, really practical. It's not just, growth. Like, growth is a terrible goal because it's meaningless. So you think, like, I need to grow 10%. What does that look like? And then if you say, well, I don't have the resources or the manpower to grow 10%, I would have to hire to get there. Well, then now you can start to think that way. But now you're starting to think forward. You're starting to think in the future. You're not just thinking day by day, week by week, and scrapping to survive. You're actually, being an empowered business owner, not just in the hamster wheel trap. So a couple examples, and these are real examples. I won't say any names, but these are things we talk about. So people who realize the pain is, payroll is terrifying. I have to sweat it every single month because I'm messing with my cash, and I don't know that I'm often just terrified of missing payroll, and I've got to move things around, and it's very challenging. Okay, so if that's the pain, then the goal is building cash reserves. So you can set a goal. I want to, have cash reserves of $5,000 every month, and where does that leave me at the end of the year? And then build a plan to get there. Once you identify that's the pain, that's the goal you want to solve, cash reserves is a great target to try to hit and say, I want by the end of the year to have 3 months of payroll built into cash reserves. So you can build in sweat on sweat payroll. Then you can actually build a model to get there. The other example we already talked about, I want to hire someone. I as the owner, I'm doing all the sales. That's not a good use of my time. I want to hire a salesperson. Building the model, you can start to say, okay, if I hire one, then what type of impact does that salesperson need to have? What type of compensation makes sense? What do I need to do to get us into a position to make that possible? Another one is the salary. I know that's, for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's not a guarantee. It fluctuates based on how well the company's doing. Well, if you want a salary, how do you build that into the model? Okay, I want to make this much per month. How do I build that in? Another great book that I'll recommend, I don't have it in the slide. It's a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. And I actually interviewed him on our podcast, and he was brilliant. And his point related to profit first is that most people put profit last. So you have how much money is income, and then you have how much you spend, and then whatever the end result of that is the profit. His idea was take the profit after the income and set that aside, and then whatever is left to spend is what you spend. And so it's the same concept as, if you have complete a project, you'll take 3 months to complete a project, whereas you may have been able to get it done in a month. Well, the same thing happens with financials. If you have money to spend, you will spend it. And so a lot of people make a lot of money, but then those same people spend a lot of money. It doesn't really make a difference. If you build a model that says, I want to make this much in salary, you build that into your model, and then that affects how much you spend, and you can actually hit your target. This is the power of having financials, having a finger on the pulse of what's going on. So here's another quote I love. A lot of you have probably heard of this. I know Ty's listeners are probably very big fans of Stephen Covey. I sure am. But this is exactly what we're talking about. A quote from Stephen Covey. He says, being proactive is about taking responsibility for your life. Reactive people, on the other hand, are often affected by their physical environment. They find external sources to blame for their behavior. So what we're talking about in building this model is being proactive. We're looking forward. We're creating a model to actually hit our goals, not just going day by day and hoping that we hit our goals. That's reactive. And most accounting is reactive. It's people that go through their business and make sales, and then they check with their CPA at the end of the year and they say, how did I do? Well, that's reactive. That information is not helpful. How can you do your accounting and have it looking forward? It's not going to be, a perfectly architected map of what's going to happen, but it's at least allowing you to take action in a proactive way to build your business. So that's step 3, is building that model, looking forward. And now I want to talk about the perfect accounting system, because I know I maybe lost some people, because I know this just from experience, that just a lot of people have so much fear and confusion around the topic of their numbers. And actually, what I'm talking about of having a forward-looking system that's not just looking backward, and it's not just, pulling together a bunch of receipts and spreadsheets, is like a foreign concept. And so I want to get into this a little bit, because I think it's something that is worth educating on, worth diving into, that a lot of people haven't really thought about. So talking about what the perfect accounting system would look like. So imagine this. Perfect accounting is being in control. This is just an example of the Xero dashboard. Xero is the accounting software that we use. You can use QuickBooks, you can use something else. We love Xero. It's really easy, user-friendly. But imagine just having a dashboard that's real-time, telling you exactly what's going on in your business, being in control of what's going on. It's a game changer for a business. So how do you get there? So I mentioned Xero. You take advantage of technology. And so a lot of people use technology. Maybe they use QuickBooks Online or Xero, but they don't really take advantage of it. They don't really get much out of it. But technology has done a ton in the accounting space, and people don't realize that. Like me and a teammate were just at the Infusionsoft Partner Conference last week, and I don't know if a lot of you maybe have heard of Infusionsoft or maybe use it. It's a really powerful tool for sales and marketing. It automates your emails, can do so many cool things. And it was amazing talking to people how dialed in their sales and marketing technology was, and how proud they were of what they could do with Infusionsoft. And then we'd ask them, okay, how's your accounting work? Well, a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of paper, a lot of messiness. And people don't realize, like, there are tools like Infusionsoft with accounting where you can automate things. You can really eliminate data entry by having your bank feeds connected to your accounting system, by being able to upload receipts by scanning, by taking pictures with your phone. You really have the ability to automate as much as possible. And so if you haven't looked into it, look into Xero and what you can do with accounting systems. I'll talk a little bit more about how to make the most of it as we build this perfect system. But technology is a game changer because it can save a ton of time. You need to automate as much as possible. However, I will add another piece to that, that is remove yourself ASAP. So most people listening here are probably not accounting professionals, and that's okay because you're a professional at whatever you're good at. And accounting doesn't have to be something you're good at. And so I always have to throw this in because I talk about how much technology can make a big difference. But this quote by Bill Gates is perfect. The first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. And I think that is something we've seen a lot where it's like, oh, this tool is so great. And it happens to Infusionsoft too. It's going to solve all my problems. But if your systems don't work and then you apply this really cool tool, it's just going to make your inefficient processes look cool with a cool tool, but it's not going to make them, it's not going to fix them. And so if you're not an accounting professional, then you want to make this your goal to remove yourself ASAP. And so we talk with professionals, and this is something that I want to be just open about. I know that's not always an option. Like if you have just started your business, you don't really have that ability to hire a bookkeeper, to outsource your accounting, or to get a lot of hands-on service from a professional, and that's understandable. And so there is a time early on where you have to wear the hat of bookkeeper. I get that, but be aware of it and just understand. My goal here today is to understand what is the perfect situation so you can aspire towards that. And not only that, but to think in your mind, like, I know I have to do this for now, but my goal is to get out of this as soon as I possibly can. There's a lot of reasons why. Number one, cloud technology allows you to collaborate very easily with professionals. You don't have to take your stuff into their office. They can log in, they can see it, they can see that dashboard I just showed you, they can work with you. More importantly though, you need to spend your time where you're most valuable. You need to spend time improving products, improving your team, investing in people, and making sales. Like that's what an entrepreneur should be doing, not being in the minutia, not being in the day-to-day. I have this example from law firms. We were at a conference talking to law firms, and one time on billable work. Like everything they do is stuff that they get paid for because all the systems are taken care of. And then they talked about entrepreneurial law firms of 1, 2, 3 attorneys, and that number goes down to about 40%. How much time is spent on billable work? And I thought, that's true for lawyers, but that's absolutely true for any entrepreneur, is that you are doing so many operations type things that, like in a corporate environment, you have to deal with, that you are spending only a small fraction of your time on things that matter and things that drive your business. And so as soon as you can get a professional involved and get yourself out of the bookkeeping situation, you need to do it, not just because they know what they're doing more than you, but because you need to be doing things that drive business and grow it and are playing to your strengths. The other piece in this is about accountability. I touched on it a bit earlier, but when you start to model out, here's where I am today, and I'm being brutally honest with it, I'm breaking that down, and then putting out a year from now, here's where I want to be, and I'm going to build a model that's going to track my progress toward that destination. The best next step is to bring in accountability into that. So your accounting professional can definitely provide that for you, but I'd also recommend, being transparent about your numbers in a mastermind. Talking through these things, having accountability is a huge difference maker, because it's going to keep you accountable not only on tracking how you're doing, but also in having to answer those tough questions. If you're the only source of accountability, there's a chance that you don't follow through on everything. And so when you have that map in place, I strongly recommend having accountability so that you can have people saying, okay, you didn't hit your target, why not? And it forces you to, that's going to happen. But the process of, number one, acknowledging that, and number two, identifying why or why not, is very, very enlightening and empowering as you work to grow your business. So just to recap, we want a perfect accounting system. So what does that look like? Just to summarize it, you want a brutally honest assessment of where you are today. That's very clear, that you understand. You have a clear vision of where you want to be, and that's at a macro level, but it's also at a 1 year from now level. Where do I want to be? Where am I going? Number 3, you want automated bookkeeping. So as soon as you can, to have you're tracking the progress towards that destination, tracking the numbers in your business. You want to automate that as soon as possible. You want professionals to keep you out of the minutia. And number 5, you want accountability to track progress towards that goal. That's how you build a roadmap towards victory, and that's how you grow out of the minutia. So I covered a lot of ground today, and I know that can be overwhelming, especially related to accounting. And I want, anytime I share something, I want you to be able to take action. And so what are the action steps here? I want to keep it simple. There's a couple things that I would recommend. The first thing I hope that you can take away from this today is that your financials have to be a priority. And I don't think anyone can argue that as a business, the scoreboard of your business is the accounting system. That's what tells you whether or not you're winning, or losing. And so you have to prioritize that. It amazes me when people don't prioritize the financials. And I think the reason why is because of the fear, like we talked about before. It's fear, and it's being overwhelmed. It's not being willing to embrace ignorance. Well, that's a bad reason to not take these seriously. You have to make them a priority. And then number 2 is, in terms of taking action, is to take time to clearly define where you are and where you want to be. You don't have to be an accounting professional to do this. Dig in to your bank statements, dig in to where you are, and think that through. I think that's always something to do. And too many business owners, are not intentional about where they're going, and then they end up somewhere and they're like, why did I get here? Take the time to define that, and that's going to help you as you think about your accounting, and think, okay, now I know where I am, I know where I want to be, and I want to set something up that's going to lead me to get there. So those are some action steps that nothing is stopping you from taking those, and I think would make a big difference in everything that you're doing. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really appreciative of Ty for having me on. If you want to know more about what we're up to, we help people with these things every day. You can see it at kahunaaccounting.com, and feel free to email me. I just love to chat with people if you have any feedback or other questions or thoughts. But that's all I have today. So Ty, I'll send it back to you if you have anything else to add, but thanks again for having me on.
No, fantastic stuff, and I really appreciate you coming on. And it's just so interesting how relative this stuff is. It really is, because as an entrepreneur, I think that a lot of us, Mickey, there's a lot of reasons that we don't seem to care about the numbers. I think one of it is fear. And even when you're doing well and you're doing well, I think sometimes it's even boring for a lot of us, And
Absolutely.
I actually had that conversation with my accountant the other day, and it was weird. I actually said to him, I said, it's amazing on how I have no interest in what you're talking about. I mean, literally, we both laughed about that. And he said, it's like that with a lot of entrepreneurs. And then when I found your guys' firm and working with you guys and using software like Xero, man, it's fantastic, because what I've realized is that it's not that people don't care, it's the format that it's being delivered. And when you can go into Xero and pull up reports and see all the crucial details in a way where it makes sense easily, and it's interesting, I think it changes a lot of things. And I found that about a lot of metrics. We use Infusionsoft, and we use a service called Graphly. And it's interesting on how many metrics we used to have on Excel spreadsheets that we kind of ignored. But on Graphly, when we can see it in colored diagrams and trending, it all of a sudden is something we're completely addicted to watching all the time.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Like, the numbers are boring, but growing is not boring, and hiring talent is not boring, and investing in marketing is not boring. And without a clear picture of the numbers, how do you do those things in a responsible way? And so it's all about how it's delivered. It can absolutely be very, very boring, but it can also be pretty exciting. Winning is fun. So when it becomes like that, it can be a lot more interesting.
No, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that some people look at numbers that way because as entrepreneurs, our brains are kind of wired that way. And I guess what I'm saying is that shift the perspective changes everything. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, now I'm excited to get in. I'm excited
Right.
to see where we are for the month, where we are for the year, where we are annually, to be able to set goals and motivate our team by those things. It's just interesting how, even getting exposed to Kahuna, getting exposed to zeros changed that completely for us. Is something we never talked about, that now we talk about it weekly in our meetings of where we are and what we
That's
did this
cool.
month and where we are for the year. And it's a whole motivator now for our team. Like you said, it's like we created now, Zero has given us a scoreboard. And
Mm-hmm.
with the scoreboard now, it changes everything. Which you make that reference, but I think it's like that in sports, right? I mean,
Right.
you can tell by looking at some kids on the playground, what kind of game they're playing by how hard they're working. Are they keeping score? Are they just out there having fun? And you can tell right away just by looking at how hard they're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes all the difference. It's not, you don't really know what's going on if there's no scoreboard. So
No, and it's
that,
crazy too, because how many people don't know their margins? They don't know the
right.
lifetime value of a customer. They know they're making money, but they don't even know if they're profitable. They don't
Yep.
even know what their most profitable product is.
Right.
And knowing those simple things changes everything. You might put all of your energy into marketing and promoting a product, and then if you don't know and you come to realize later that that's one of your lower margin products, then it
Mm.
changes everything when you could put the same effort in marketing a larger margin product.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a game changer. That's exactly what Frank, our founder, said. Before way back 10 years ago, before he invested into his accounting staff, he said, I don't know if I'm winning or losing. He would go to a bank to get a loan and get turned down because it was like, this doesn't make sense. I can't make sense of this. And so, that's something you're familiar with. But like, if you don't know if you're winning or losing, it's really hard to responsibly grow and run your business.
You're right, and I think responsibly is the right word. I mean, I was in a mastermind earlier, and we had somebody in a hot seat, and he was talking about how his biggest selling product is his lowest margin product. And one of the things we were talking about was the strategy of then putting his highest margin products in high traffic areas around those low margin products, so he could sell the low margin product while they're picking up one or two of the high margin products. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't make those kind of decisions. And he's got, a few $1 million in a pet feed kind of business.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't make those kind of decisions and smart moves unless you know your numbers. So you're right. I think a lot of people don't have interest for a lot of reasons, but they should, because those reasons and those numbers are what should drive the business. And in doing so, it's really, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really all about working smarter and not harder.
Yeah, no, that's a big piece of it. It's just to find out, like you said, like I'm not a numbers person. Okay, then how do I get help? How do I get someone to help me make this simple? Because there are people out there that can do it, like us, and there's plenty of others too. So it's not just about us, but I mean it's getting the automation in place, using technology. Like I said, people realize what technology can do for marketing, but they have no idea what it can do for accounting. But it's pretty cool that, if you're in Tampa and your accountant's in Illinois, it doesn't matter. We can work in real time together. It doesn't affect us, even though we'll probably come visit at some point to get warm, but that would just be for fun.
Well, we'd love to have you down, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us, because it is so crucial. And you guys at Kahuna have made a big impact in our business. And anybody that wants to reach out to Micky, please do. And he's not going to pitch himself, and I won't either. But I will tell you that we use them for our services, and it is much more affordable than one would think that it is. So if you're to that point where I think a lot of businesses are, where you're still controlling your finances, or your spouse, which often happens,
Yeah.
you have somebody very close to you that you trust overseeing them, you should really look into it, because it's much more affordable than you may think. And with technology and things like Zero, where you could really see stuff in real time and get reports that make sense in a way that makes it exciting, it's really a game changer and really helps you direct your business to work smarter, not harder. It's just an easier way to grow a business from what I've seen.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, Ty. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, now, around the new year is the best time to make a transition. So if that is something that you've been thinking about, definitely feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to chat.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Our listeners, our viewers, really enjoy having you. I'm sure have really enjoyed having you. If anybody has any, final parting questions, go ahead and type them in the chat as we get ready to wrap up. But again, I know how valuable your time is. I've always enjoyed the time that we've spent together. I really appreciate you coming on with us today and openly sharing as much as you have. I learned a lot, and please listen to his recommendations. I've read, I think, almost all of the books that he's mentioned here. Yeah, and Extreme Ownership is a powerful book. I just read that a few books ago. That was an awesome book. So follow those recommendations. Reach out to Micky with any questions you have. And hey, it never hurts if you don't have a professional handling either your accounting or just your bookkeeping. Reach out to Micky. I promise you won't be disappointed. We did so about a year ago and have just been so happy with the results. So no other questions. Micky, thank you again so much for coming in. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, anytime, Ty. This is great. I really appreciate it, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to join us today.